Session 4 of Getting Control of Your Life. Today, we talk about getting control of your career. And in a sense, it kind of pulls all these other things together. So you've got your outline. Let me help you fill this in, and then we'll come back and just teach our way through it. You've got 4 sections that you see. Okay? How do you know if you're out of control? Well, look at that. What do you need to know? And then in the third section, what do you need to do? So let's take a look. How do you know if you're out of control? Well, first of all, you no longer enjoy your job. Now, I'm not suggesting that every day you come in, there's a piñata and you're throwing confetti and I'm not saying that, but I'm saying there's a sense of joy or satisfaction to that. So here's this job, this career, and you've planned for it, you've prepared for it, you've studied for it, you've spent dough to be trained in it, you've sacrificed for it, and you are right at the point where you would trade it this afternoon for 2 bleacher seats at a Diamondbacks game, okay? Now, I know, that's about as, I'm trying to think of something not worth much, so that's where I landed, okay? Interesting you would respond that way. Here you go, second way. You no longer control your lifestyle. Everything is spilling over into everything else. Now, when I think lifestyle, I think financial, and we'll probably talk about some of that today. But work is spilling over into the areas of your life. Social is spilling over into work. All of a sudden, the lifestyle's out of control. Here's the third thing: you no longer relish the position or promotion you expect. You no longer look forward to that promotion that's coming. It all of a sudden has become a burden. It's just part of what you have to do to kind of get up the corporate ladder. So, you know, I don't mean this in a chauvinistic way, but let's use a guy in this instance. The guy comes in and he calls his wife and he says, you need to know, we're moving to Duluth. That's just part of the deal. We don't have any choice in this. That's what we need to do. You settle everything here, sell the house, get the kids squared away. I'll go to Duluth, get it set up. So he goes to Duluth, he's got that. She's in Liberal, Kansas driving up, and he gets her on the cell phone and says, the key's under the mat, they just sent me to Memphis. All of that kind of a process. And we're seeing more and more people who are saying, you know what, I don't want to go any further in the organization. I don't want to go to the next level. Well, you're out of control if all of a sudden you're saying, here comes this promotion and I'm going to have to take it. Here's the fourth thing. You're out of control if you no longer appreciate your life. Your role model would be Richard Kimball, the fugitive. You'd like to cut your hair, dye your hair, and just kind of drift away, fade into the crowd, and nobody ever find you again. You don't like your life. Here'd be the last thing: if you no longer feel a sense of contentment. Now, I can't even say the word without digressing. You know, years ago, when I was talking to Larry, I was explaining to him a theory I have. And my theory is that if you pick the tape, and I don't care if it's Numbers chapter 3, verse 7, it doesn't matter. You pick whatever Larry's teaching, and in that 45 minutes, he'll make some reference to marriage. And that's almost universally true. I mean, there may be a time or two that's the exception. And he said, well, that's just what drives me. That's my thing. If you pick up my stuff over a period of time, a reoccurring theme that you will get is lack of contentment. I believe it's the missing ingredient in most people's lives. That if we could just get to the point where there's a sense of satisfaction. Now, there's a fine line there, isn't there? That contentment can move into apathy. We're not advocating that. Or just some sort of ambivalence. I don't really care. Que sera, sera. I'm not advocating that. I'm saying a sense of satisfaction with who you are and what you have and all that goes with it. And even there we say, well, wait, am I not supposed to improve myself? Yes, but you see the balance there? I'm not driven by these things. I believe, this is just me, I believe it's the missing ingredient in most people's lives, especially Christians. And that's why I go back again and again and again to 1 Timothy 6, chapter 6, verse 6, Godliness plus contentment is great gain. We came into the world with nothing. We leave it with nothing. If we have food and covering, with those we'll be content. That little phrase in verse 7, we came in with nothing and leave with nothing, is the absolute key to contentment. If you want to experience contentment, you have to understand the finiteness of life. You have to get an eternal perspective. Now, having said all that, that's really what the rest of this day is about. If you have Bibles, and as you look at your outline here, you're going to see that we're going to spend the day in the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is written by Solomon. Solomon is one of those men, perhaps the only man, that God has ever allowed to live, who has enjoyed everything you think will make you happy. That's why Solomon has great authority. I was talking with somebody yesterday about an area of endeavor, and they say, the guy who's counseling us and the guy who's our consultant couldn't do it on his own, and now he's our consultant. I don't know why we have him as a consultant if he couldn't do it on his own. Now, there's some sense to that, isn't there? Okay? Well, yeah, Solomon is saying, I want to talk to you about life, and I'll tell you my pedigree, and his pedigree is pretty impressive. He's arguably the wealthiest man that ever lived, the most as powerful as any man that ever lived. He dabbled with success in the arts. He was involved in agriculture. If you think sex will make you happy, he had, and I always get this messed around, 700 wives and 300 concubines, or 300 wives and 700 concubines. Either way, he had 1,000 gals who were there for one specific purpose, and that was to satisfy his every need. He could have sex with a different woman 3 times a day and not run through the whole litter. That's pretty impressive, okay? So now, he's pretty impressive that he'd even be able to do that. My point to you is this. Solomon speaks with authority. If you're sitting there and you're saying, if I had this, Solomon's saying, I had it, let me tell you. If only I, and Solomon said, I did, let me tell you. At the end of his, I'm going to give you the punchline to the whole lesson early into it. It's Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. He said, here's the conclusion. Here's the whole deal. When all has been heard, he said, now I've experienced all this. I've done all this. I've been there. Whatever you bring to me, Solomon can say, been there, done that. Solomon said, here it is. When all is considered, here's the conclusion. Fear God and keep His commandments. And then he adds, because this applies to every person. There's no exception to this. That's mankind's condition. If you want to have a fulfilled life, if you want to have a successful life, not in our economy, but in God's economy, then you need to fear Him. That means understand who He really is. Get your arms around that. We'll talk more about it. And you need to do what He says. It's real simple. I personally believe life isn't that tough. I personally believe things aren't that complicated or difficult. Some circumstances get complicated, and I acknowledge that. But generally speaking, life is pretty simple. Generally speaking, when you sit down with somebody, what needs to happen, especially, here you go, this is the key, especially if you aren't emotionally involved in it, it's pretty easy to dissect this stuff. The problem is doing it. And that's what he said. I need to know what to do, fear God, and do it. Here you go. On your outline, we're going to look now at the 2 sections, or the sections that remain. What do you need to know? You got 4 points here. Here you go. 4 points. See them? These are the big headings. What do you need to know? Number 1, work can become obnoxious. Work can become obnoxious. Number 2, motivation can become excessive. Motivation can become excessive. Number 3, achievement can become hollow or empty. You're welcome to just put your own word in there. And number 4, results can become unpredictable. So let's look at each one of those. That's what we need to, in our outline here, that's what we're saying we need to know. Number 1, work can become obnoxious. Here you go. 2 important points under that. Number 1, it can ruin your day. Here's what Solomon writes. What does a man get for all his toil and anxious striving with which he labors? And here's the key phrase. If you're going to understand Ecclesiastes, you need to understand two phrases. Here's one of them. For which he labors under the sun. When Solomon uses that phrase, under the sun, what he's talking about is life viewed and lived on a horizontal plane. This world. When I look at this world as it is, minus any sort of an eternal perspective at all, what do I get for this? All his day, his work is pain, and his work is grief. All of a sudden, I've got work, and it ruins my day. Here's the second thing. And it can ruin your night. Even at night, his mind does not rest. This, too, is meaningless. So you're driving home, and you're rehearsing or replaying the entire day. I'm in the middle of kind of a big situation, and I'm figuring it out or trying to figure it out. And I find myself, I have a tendency to talk to myself when I'm in the car. I don't know if you do that. Those are not stupid people that do that. That's generally brilliant people who do that. Mind is active. So I'm talking, and coming over here today, I'm talking pretty full bore most of the way. And I'm doing two things. And that's what he's saying. I'm replaying. When he said this, I should have said this. When he came over here, I should have done this. When he would have did this, and then I can't relax because once I've replayed it, now I'm rehearsing it. When he says this, I'll say this. If he says this, I'll say this. Here's how this needs to go. When they move here, it's as though life is one giant game of checkers or chess or marbles or moves, and I'm anticipating. So my mind, my work, it won't let me rest. Here you go. Motivation can become excessive. You may push to surpass. Listen to this, Ecclesiastes 4:4. And I would suggest to you, especially since you're going to have some serious free time coming up, if you'd use the hour that you're going to be in here over these next few weeks and go back and take these verses with your Bible, mark them up, and go back to them again and again and again, it would be extraordinarily helpful to you. Because this stuff, I didn't say that in the introduction. You're not going to probably hear anything new in here today. And you're going to go, I know it's true, I know it's true, I know it's true. And yet, there's this huge battle to do it. It's the doggonedest thing. It's just the way we are. You know, listen, this is great. Ecclesiastes 4:4. When I saw that all labor and all achievement, listen now, springs from man's envy of his neighbor, it too is meaningless. What he's talking about here is, the phrase we would use is keeping up with the Joneses. Keeping up with the Joneses. Now, there's paraphrases of that. Larry Holmes, the former heavyweight champion of the world, probably a pretty significantly underrated fighter just because of when he came along after Ali and everything. Larry Holmes was born, raised, I assume still lives, he certainly did then as champion, in Easton, Pennsylvania. And Larry Holmes used to say, in Easton, the Joneses keep up with the Holmeses. So, we'll play this any way you want. The image is this. I'm motivated by somebody else. This is a great illustration. Got a guy, and it's like some of you, and you come and you drift in and out of the studies. Some of you are here every week, but some of you drift as life situations drift. That's okay. That's good. That's fine. That's not a condemning statement. That's a good statement. This guy comes in. I haven't seen him in a study in a while, and he looked incredible. He came up. I said, man, where you been? He said, I just got started. I said, you look incredible. You look awesome. Have you lost weight? He said, I've lost like 40 pounds. I said, 40 pounds? He said, yeah. And he started walking away. I said, don't walk away. Come here. What did you do? Are you lifting weights? Gosh, look at you. I said, yeah, I'm lifting weights. And I said, you look unbelievable. Your hair's different, isn't it? And he said, I've touched it up a little. I said, man alive, if I was a girl, I'd be going for you. You're incredible, man. You really look good. You're sharp. How'd you do it? He said, well, I just ate less and exercised more. I said, that seems simple. I said, what was the motivation? He said, well, next week, I'm going to my 25-year high school reunion. Now, this is absolutely fascinating to me. The doctor could say, you need to lose the weight. And you go, whatever, he's a doctor. You could be 1,000 things. But what actually moved him was, here you go, envy of man's neighbor. He's going to walk in, he's going to saunter into that union. He's going to go like this. And all I can think of is there's some poor chick there who's going to fall for this guy. They are going to reconnect. And a year later, she's going to wake up and look over and go, here's the before picture next to me. What happened? This guy says, I want my money back. What happened in there? So all of a sudden, that's what happens. Here you go. Motivation becomes excessive. You may push to stockpile, to store up. Again, I saw something meaningless under the sun. There was a man all alone. He didn't have a son or a brother. There was no end to his toil. Work, 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 work. Yet his eyes were not content with his wealth. For whom am I toiling? And why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? This too is miserable. Here's that person, and you know them. They work and 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 they work. And in this case, this guy's all alone, but he's saying, it's not making me happy and I've got nothing to do with it. I love reruns. I like TV Land. It's interesting. I don't think there's a show on television now, and I watch a lot of TV, that is currently running that I really watch. I watch the reruns. Like even something like Raymond, I watch the rerun. It's weird. So I watch a lot of reruns and old shows. I like that. A couple of years ago, they were rerunning, and this is when you know you're desperate. They were rerunning Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. I loved that show. I absolutely loved that show. But I got to tell you, if you want to have a blast, watch Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous reruns. And the one I saw, here you go. This is great. Here's Yanni in his white suit, and he's not really much, and nobody knows who he is. But next to him is his main squeeze, Linda Evans. Okay? And Linda Evans is obviously putting Yanni in the map, and here we go, and they're in the beach house, and Yanni's, and she's, and it's great, and they interview her, they said, this is incredible. We've never been happier. We just gaze into each other's eyes, and we're so blissful. We could, and then they show them walking down the beach and holding hands, and the dog's running along. We could live like this forever. He dumped her right after this was over. It's Lance Armstrong, all-American boy. Go back and read the autobiography. Gets cancer. My wife is there. She stood with me. I owe her everything. She's gone. Where's Sheryl Crow when I need her? It's an incredible way we live. If I have that, I'll be happy. They've done this, I'll be happy. If only. And then he says, no. Here you go. This is a great one. You may push to survive. Here's a great verse. I love this verse. Ecclesiastes 9:10. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. Now listen. For in the grave where you are going, there is neither working, nor planning, nor knowledge, nor wisdom. Years ago, I saw the statistic. I'm sure it's not there anymore. I think it was about late 80s. That the average male, once he retired and started to collect Social Security, collects Social Security for 22 months and then they die. So here's this guy, all this time, I'm striving for this point. I went back the other day. I used to have this website that I went to all the time. I'm sure some of you have been there. Remember the website deathclock.com? Do you remember Death Clock? Did you ever go to that? It's a great website. You ought to go there. If you haven't gone there, you ought to go. deathclock.com. What you do is you go in and you put some information in. Like, are you a male or a female? What day were you born? What year were you born? And then they ask for some information like height and weight. And then they ask, like, what kind of disposition do you have? Are you optimistic, pessimistic, sadistic? Are you normal? And then you put it in. You got all this in. Then you hit the button, and it tells you what day you're going to die. Okay? And then, because that's good, okay? And what's interesting, I did this 6 years ago. I did it again this week, and both times it came up the same day, September 9th, 2023. Then you hit the button. Here's the best part. And it flashes up how many seconds you have left to live and starts to count them down. So as you look at it, the other night I had 603,465,738 seconds. And so I looked last night, and it's significant. And you're watching this. Well, this is a true story. This used to be my screensaver. So every morning it'd come in, and the first thing I'd see was a skull and crossbones and this big number counting down. It was really valuable, and I'll tell you why. I remember this was like this epiphany moment for me. I'm on the phone listening to this person drone on, and I'm looking at this screensaver, and I'm thinking, I'm dying here. I'm dying, and this guy's yapping about something that I don't care. Hurry up, get to the point, I'm dying. It was really helpful. It's really important to understand that thing. It gives life a sense of urgency. I'm becoming more and more convinced that life is this gigantic balancing act between tensions, between the urgency of the moment and yet a calmness and a relaxation of living. It's tense. There's just those, and so you have to find that way of allowing that tension to exist. I love that. For in the grave, where you are going, you are not the exception. Here you go. Achievement can become hollow. 3 things. Number 1, more profit doesn't satisfy. This is great. Whoever loves money never has enough money. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with his income. It's meaningless. I'm never going to reach that point where I have enough money. We've talked about it before, and I've seen 2 or 3 studies since then. It's all the same thing. You start to interview people, you ask them how much money would it take to make you happy, and they generally go up 1 notch and say, I'd be happy there. And of course, the irony is you interview the people that are there, and they say it's 1 more notch, and it's 1 more notch, and it's 1 more notch. And here's what he's saying. If you say you love money, you never have enough. Now, I want you to see how subtle this is, because some of you say, well, I don't think money is the answer. Have you ever had this situation? You see this couple, they've got this great house, they've got these great kids, they've got all this thing, they're vacationing in Maui, they've got all this stuff, and yet they're not happy. And you're saying, how can they not be happy? The minute you say that, you know what you're doing? You're basing that on an assumption that if I have all these things, I should be happy. You got 2 things at work there. Number 1, you have no idea what goes on behind closed doors. It shocks me how people interact with each other, treat with each other, and what goes on behind, and you can't always tell it in public. And number 2 is that faulty assumption that if I have this stuff, I'll be happy. If I could just make $700,000 a year, I'd be happy. And I can introduce you to people that are making $700,000 a year, and they're miserable. You know, all this stuff gets hyped, and I know that you're the exception, but it was even Elvis who said at the end of his life, I'd give $1 million for 1 day of peace. It's helpful to look at these people where the dog has caught the car, who are saying, look at me, I'm miserable. And I know you're saying, well, I'm the exception. And maybe. Here's the second thing. More volume doesn't satisfy. This is kind of the sister of the other verse. If I love money, I never have enough. And this thing basically says, if I love stuff, I never have enough. As goods increase, so do those who consume them. What benefit are they to the owner except to feast their eyes on them? Let me give you, there's just certain illustrations that you come across that you use over and over and over again. One of the most, when we go to Houston or we go to wherever it is, and you go in and you do your deal, even if it's 1 deal or a week, it's okay because everything's new. When you're in the same group, week after week after week, we've been doing this now for 13 years, you've essentially heard everything I have to say 5 times. And some of these illustrations are so powerful, and yet I say, well, I don't want to use them, but yet they're great. This is, to me, this is one of those illustrations I love about getting stuff. It's William Randolph Hearst. Wealthy, 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 wealthy guy. Got mistress, wife, same old story. Got all the stuff going on. Trying to find a way to occupy himself, amusing himself to death. He gets into art. He becomes compulsive about art. He hires a curator to maintain the art of his castles and his office and everything. He becomes fixated on one piece of art. He sees this art in a catalog, he reads something about it in a book, and it just captures his imagination. And the more he sees it, the more he wants it. He calls the curator and he says, I need this piece of art. And he said, I don't know anything about it. And he said, well, find it. I don't care where you have to go, anywhere in the world, what you have to spend, find it and buy it. Because the implication is, when I got that piece of art, I'm going to be pretty happy. The curator spends a significant amount of time traveling the world. He comes back, he says to Hearst, I can't find it. This thing, about 10 years ago, just dropped off the face of the earth. We can't find it. He hires 4 detectives. He sends them around the world. They're out there for 6 months. They're trying to track this down. They come back and they say, we can't find it. About 10 years ago, this thing just fell off the face of the earth. He said, I got to have that piece of art. Back out you go. They call him and they say, we got good news, we found it. He said, buy it. He said, we don't need to. It's in a crate in your basement. You already own it. Isn't that a great illustration? Oh, if I just had that piece of art, I'd be happy. Oh, it's in the basement. What else do you got? See, if I love stuff, I'm never going to have enough. You know that. The minute you get that car that's going to make you happy, that thing, that house, that room, I was watching last night, Susan had on the end of Designer Challenge or something, and they took this house and they made it, and this was the girl's comment. She said, we had the ugliest house in the block and you made it into the prettiest house in the block. And I thought, isn't that incredible? And then I got an idea for a TV show, and that is to kind of follow up on Designer Challenge. To go back like 2 years later, to see what the house really looks like, and to see if these two people are still satisfied with that house. And I'll bet you'd find they've moved on up to the east side. That'd be my guess. Here you go. More authority doesn't satisfy you. This is great. I know I'm saying this on every one, but they're all great. This is terrific. More authority doesn't satisfy you. Here's what you say. I'm going to be my own boss. That's what I'm going to do. How great is this? Ecclesiastes 5:12. The sleep of the labor is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of the rich man permits him no sleep. Here, let me say it another way. The preferred drink of the laborer is Diet Coke. The preferred drink of the owner is Maalox. I had punch a clock, I played her at 8, yeah, I'll try to do it. You see it all the time. I'm not going to tell you what, I'm in a bookstore the other day, okay? And I have a particular problem with this bookstore for 3 reasons. Number 1, they did away with their biography section, which seems to me to be stupid. Number 2, they're always poorly lit. And number 3, they got awful, unclean restrooms. Having said all that, I'm in there. Here's this gal. Okay, now I'm going to lay my soul bare here. I came across this book the other day. I am losing my manhood here. With a foreword by Katie Couric. Okay, so I'm in real trouble here. Written by a lady about her experience with ALS. So I've got it's a chick book. It's designed to be a chick book. All the endorsements are ladies. It's ladies. So why? I don't know. I start reading this thing. And it's pretty good. So I don't buy it. I go to a different bookstore a week later and I say, I'm looking for a book. She said, well, who's the author? I said, well, I don't know the name. What's the title? I don't know the name. She said, well, this is going to be difficult. And I said, I can get you close. I think the last name is like E-S-T-E-S. First name is like Janet, J, I don't know. Types it in. She goes, nope, there's nothing by that. I said, what title? I said, the word bed's in the title or something. I don't know. Oh, it's not here. Okay? I said, all right, I understand that. I said, I know it would be in a biography section if you had a biography section, but since you've done away with that, where do you think I might find it? And she said, women's health. I said, all right. So now I'm over, and the irony of this is not absent on me, laughing as I'm thumbing through women's health, saying, man, they got a lot of issues. Thumbing through women's health, and I can't find it. This girl's gone from the computer, so I thought, in a brazen moment, I'm going to commandeer her computer. So I type in ESTES, and it's not there. But if you push one arrow, you get ESTESS. There it is right there. All she had to do was hit that arrow once. Sleep with a labor. Hey, he asked. He didn't know. He should have known the title. Customer service. That's what I saw over. It said customer service, and I thought I didn't get much of that. But see, if I'm a laborer, it's whatever. But if I'm the boss, if I owned this bookstore, I'd be out of my mind. Watching this stuff. You see that? And that's what he's saying. So here's what we're saying. If I have more money, if I get more stuff, if I'm my own boss, I'll be happy. And he says, no, that's not it at all. So at this point, you're probably either frustrated or suicidal. Let's put you over the edge. And this will drive you totally nuts. Point 4, and I only have the first 2 points here. Results can become unpredictable. Ecclesiastes 9:11. I've seen something else under the sun. This is a great... The race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor the food to the wise, nor wealth to the brilliant, nor favor to the learned, but time and chance happen to them all. I learned that lesson at Turf Paradise years ago. The fastest horse does not win every race. It's a very strange... Didn't you just see that in the Triple Crown? You turn on the Belmont. Here's Smarty Jones. He's at 1 to 10. You can't look. They can't sniff Smarty Jones. And they're coming down the stretch, and they just go right by him. Isn't it amazing? If you're a boxing guy, and you, especially, let's say, boxing where you got guys fighting you don't know, 2 guys come into the ring, and you see this guy that's chiseled strong, and you see other guy that's kind of round, and he's kind of soft, and you go, gosh, he's going to kill him. And sure enough, the round, soft guy, there's like a little skill here. It's not just the strongest. And it's the same thing here with the wealthiest and the smartest. I'm watching Pinnacle. Remember the old CNN show where they interview these executives? And this was a great one. They're talking to this guy, and they said, this is a guy, okay, who had an idea. And he couldn't get anybody to pick up on the idea. I'm going to make sure I get the year right, 1990, he made $25 million off each of the words in the title of his idea. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Here's the story. He goes to Hasbro, pitches it. Nobody. Goes to Fisher. He goes to all the time. I don't want it. He's watching his kids color in a coloring book. And he said, you know what? I'm going to just design a coloring book with these like turtles in it. And then it became a book. And then it became a video. Then it became an infomercial. You might know them as Saturday morning cartoons. Then it became an infomercial. Then it became a movie. In 1990, he made $100 million off Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Huh? That nobody wanted. So the guy's interviewing him. Here's the best moment of I love these moments. So they've got this guy there, and they say to him, how did you do that? How did you move from conception to planning, to preparing, to manufacturing, to production, to distribution, to sales? How did you do that? He said, I don't know. I don't know. Well, there was a plan. No, I made the coloring book, and then a guy said maybe he'd do a video. And we hate that, don't you? Because here's what we think. The smartest, the fastest, the sharpest, they ought to be the one that wins. Go through your office. This is an interesting thing. Walk through the office and go, I'm smarter than her. I'm smarter than him. I'm smarter than her. Smarter than them. Smarter than them. You are. But why are you 22nd out of 24 in sales? Because it's not really necessarily a correlation between how smart you are and whether you're successful. Here's what he says. But time and chance happen to all. Here's the other thing. I didn't give you that. Strong assets. That's what goes in there. Strong assets are no guarantee. Strong assets are no guarantee. Long hours are no guarantee. Well, I may not be as smart as everybody else, but I'll just work harder. I'll just outwork them. Ecclesiastes 8, when I applied my mind to know wisdom and observed man's labor on earth, his eyes not sleeping day or night, then all I saw was what God had done. No one can comprehend what goes on under the sun. Despite all his efforts to search it out, man cannot discover its meaning. Even if a wise man claims he knows, he cannot comprehend it. Here's what he's saying is, you can say you're going to work and work and work and work and work, but there's something strange here. You can have all of the brilliance and all of the work. There's some very brilliant people. If you go to a Home Depot or a Lowe's or a Borders or a Barnes & Noble, there's some incredibly brilliant people working in there for just barely over minimum wage. And ultimately, what he's saying is, forget all that. I want to understand the meaning of life. You go in, this is a great time, because I'm a bookstore guy anyway. But you go in the bookstore now, and you'll see people coming out with armfuls of books, because they're getting ready for vacation. You know, I've got 5 or 6 books that have been sitting there now for months, gathering dust, that are getting ready for vacation. But more and more of them, even in the novels, certainly Rick Warren hit that nerve when he wrote The Purpose-Driven Life. More and more people are searching for meaning. And here's what Solomon's saying. Solomon's saying you can search and search and search and search and search, but you're never going to understand the meaning until you come to a true knowledge of God and who He is. A few years ago, I'm watching an interview with Madonna. And this is right after, remember, Madonna did the song. I don't remember what it was, but she does that song that the Catholic Church thought was sacrilegious and all that stuff. So they're going to throw her out. Well, they decide not to throw her out. And she just had her daughter baptized in the Catholic Church. So she's since left that, and now she's into that kind of a hybrid of the modern Jewish thing. And he asked her, why do you want your daughter baptized in church? I mean, you obviously have problems with the church. They don't like you. They don't like what you stand for. And she said, well, they have a lot of really good things. And all religions have a lot of really good things. There's the golden rule. There's the 10 Commandments. Here's what Solomon's saying. Solomon's saying that the wisdom of our day is not right. Our day says, it just matters that you pray, it doesn't matter who you're praying to. Or it just matters that you believe, it doesn't matter really what you believe. Here's a big one. It just matters that you behave morally, it doesn't matter why. That's a huge deal. Because we can go in and we can take a guy that's drunk. We've talked about this before. And we can get him sober. But if he dies in that condition apart from Christ, he just is sober for all eternity in hell. There's a very big difference here. And you're never going to understand. Here's what Solomon says. Then we're going to wrap this up. We've got like 3 minutes here to put a close on this. Solomon said there's a fundamental problem with man. It's his heart. He's a sinner. And here's the deal. He said, when all's said and done, I want you to fear God and keep His commandments. If you're going to fear God, you have to know who He is. If you're going to know who God is, there's only one place you're going to discover it, and it's right in this book. You're not going to figure it out anywhere else. Everything else is speculation. Everything else is a guess. Here's the authoritative word. That's what Solomon's saying. So how do you do this? How do you find control? What do you need to do? 5 things here. Let me give them to you very quickly. Number 1, enjoy a simple lifestyle. There is a huge push. If you watch kind of contemporary literature publication at all, there's a huge push toward this simplified life. You know, of getting rid of the car and going back to a Jeep. Now, it's a little ironic. It's a wood panel Jeep with a DVD and a CD player, but it's a simpler life. We don't want it too simple, you know. Let's return to that. Jim Elliot. Remember Jim Elliot? Died in 1956 as a young man with all sorts of potential on his very first excursion into reaching a unreached Indian tribe in South America. He's killed. If you want to read a pretty interesting book, there's a book called Shadow of the Almighty, which is a compilation of his diary and letters that he wrote to his eventual lady who became his wife, Elizabeth Elliot. In there at age 21, he's trying to figure out whether to get married or not. He's trying to figure out whether to get married. And here's what he writes. He said, here's the problem. With a wife comes Peter the Pumpkin Eater's proverbial dilemma. He must find a place to keep her. So a wife needs a house, and house need curtains, And a house with curtains and carpet soon needs a home, which needs kids, which need a car, which needs land, which needs a garage, which needs to be cleaned. Okay? And then he says this. This is a great phrase. As needs are met, they multiply. Now, this is a 21-year-old guy figuring this out on his own. It's the antithesis of what we say. We say, here's a need, I meet it, it's done. No, here's a need. I need a place to sleep. I need a place to live. But once I have this place to live, I have to find a bed. Bed needs sheets. Sheets need to be clean. I need a washing. It's endless. And that's just very important. It is pretty difficult to grab, to endorse, to keep this life. Give me 2 minutes here. We had a guy in one of the studies, and I just met him. It's he and his wife. They live alone, don't have any kids, and they have a house. It's a big house, 5,000 square feet. That's a big house to me, but I'm not. There's no value judgments here. If you feel condemned by that, you got issues. Okay, I'm not making a judgment. 5,000. That's 2,500 feet a person. That's a lot of footage. So I said to him, that seems like a big house. And he said, well, it is a big house. And I said, how did you decide to buy that size of house? And listen to this. He said, well, we're in a cooking club. And there's couples of us, and we cook, we rotate, and we go to somebody's house, and we prepare this dinner, and we eat it. So I need a certain kitchen. And the kitchen I need comes in a 5,000 square foot house. And I'm okay with that. I'm not making any judgment, but I'm saying, think of what that costs you. All those extra bedrooms, all that property tax, all that air conditioning, all that furniture, all that cleaning, all that aggravation. Here's the second thing. Enjoy your productive labor. Find satisfaction in your toilsome labor. Every once in a while somebody will say, well, you know, work is part of the curse. Work is not part of the curse. Work was given to man in Genesis 2. The curse comes in Genesis 3. We're designed to work. You're supposed to work. It may not always be, and here, let me take you off the hook here. It may not always be for a check. That's okay. But you should be engaged. You should be working. You were not designed to just sit and watch. Let me give you 3, 4, and 5 all together, and then tie them together and we're done. Enjoy the human condition. Enjoy your human condition. Said another way, enjoy your divine allotment. Said another way, enjoy your consistent preoccupation. In other words, God's given you X, and He's blessed you with X, and He didn't give you Y. And you don't need to spend the rest of your life talking about the things you didn't get. It's like right now. I can predict this conversation today. You're going to go downtown, you'll be in an elevator with somebody, you're going to look at him and you're going to go, hot out there, isn't it? Here you go. It's July 22nd and we're living in hell here. We live in a desert. Okay? And there you go. I'm going to go out on a limb. It's going to be hot another month. And next year on July 22nd it's going to be hot. Talking about that doesn't help. There's a guy by the name of Fred Smith. I assume Fred is dead. I don't know. He used to be a very popular speaker when I became a Christian years ago. And he had a bad arm. And that arm just hung. It just hung like this. And people used to come up to him and say, that's too bad about, your problem. He'd say, what are you talking about? Your problem. He said, and he'd go like this. He'd go, this? That's not a problem. That's a fact of life. I can't, there's nothing, that's the way it is. There's a sense of enjoy in life. You can't change. Look I would love to be, I was standing talking to somebody the other day. And I was standing up like this, like on the second stair, and they were on the floor, and we were eye to eye. And I thought, you know what? That'd be kind of cool. That would be pretty cool. I would love to be 6'4". It isn't going to happen. There's nothing I can do. I can control my girth, and I don't even do that very well. That's what he's saying here. God's given you this. And I can become so obsessed with what I don't have that I don't enjoy what I do. It's like kids at Christmas. You watch them, they rip over that, thank you very much. They rip over, thank you very much. They rip the next, thank you very much. It drives you nuts as a parent, doesn't it? It drives you crazy. You've given them all this, thank you very much, thank you very much. And then one day, Christmas afternoon, one Christmas, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, that's the way I am with God. I rip it open. Oh, a new house, thank you. A job, thank you. Health, thank you. Kids, thank you. When I've got that attitude where it's on to the next deal, on to the next deal, on to the next deal, and we got to go. The missing thing that you're going to find in your life is thanksgiving. There'll be no sense of thanksgiving. It'll be thank you. It's like the kids. We got little kids, and we're training. That's how you train them. But there's like little kids that are like little robots in our church, and they'll just come up and they'll go, "Hello, Mr. Shrader. Thank you for that nice message," and then they'll walk away. They don't have a foggiest idea what took place. And I understand. We're training them. I got that figured out. But they don't know. We're like that. "Thank you, God. That was really great. What else you got? Got anything over there? Boy, I want one of those." So Solomon's saying, listen, get control of your life. And part of it is just simply understanding God and who He is and how He works. We went long. Thanks for cutting me the slack. Father, thank you for this truth.